Adalyn Grace is the New York Times bestselling author of All the Stars and Teeth, which was named 2020's biggest YA fantasy by Entertainment Weekly, and the sequel, All the Tides of Fate. Prior to becoming an author, Adalyn spent 4 years working in live theater, acted as the managing editor of a nonprofit newspaper, and studied storytelling as an intern on Nickelodeon Animation's popular series, The Legend of Korra. Local to San Diego, Adalyn spends her non-writing days watching too much anime and playing video games with her bossy cat and 2 dorky dogs. And Jessica Olson claims New Hampshire as her home, but has somehow found herself in Texas, where she spends most of her time singing praises to the inventor of the air conditioner. When she's not hiding from the heat, she is corralling her 4 wild but adorable children, dreaming up stories about kissing and murder and magic, and eating peanut butter by the spoonful straight from the jar. She earned a bachelor's in English with minors in editing and French, which essentially means she spent all her university time reading and eating French pastries. She is the author of Sing Me Forgotten and A Forgery of Roses. And I'm now gonna let them take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Jessica.
Hey, Adalyn.
How are you feeling? Congratulations on your release.
Thank you. I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, honestly, like I feel like release days, like launch days are almost like anticlimactic, almost like it's like, and now the book's out. Like it's just like, and now it's out. Like I don't know. So it's really fun to be able to have like an event where we can just like celebrate that. Like that's really fun. So I'm just really excited for everybody to be able to like read the book that I've been working on for so long by myself.
I am too, because I read it months ago before like it was, you know, a lot of people had the chance to read. I don't even know if it was on NetGalley at that point. So I've not been able to talk about it. Like
yeah, I think you read it like pre-copy edits. Like I think it was like a year ago now. Like it's been a while.
Yeah, so I'm very selfishly excited for other people to read it, so we get to talk about it because it's such a good book. I love Gothic stories. I love fantasy, and I love romance and murder mysteries in particular, which are so fun and kind of a departure from your last book. Like it's very similar in its tone, but now you have this element of like a Gothic murder mystery, which is really exciting. And I kind of just want you to tell everybody about your book. If you just want to pitch it for us and let readers know what they can expect when they dive in.
Yeah, sure. So Forgery of Roses is the story of a young portrait artist who is blackmailed into using her forbidden painting magic to bring a boy back from the dead. But as she goes to this glittering mansion where she's going to do this portrait, she soon discovers that the death was no accident, as his political and wealthy family would have her believe. And in order for her to be able to complete her magic to raise him from the dead, she needs to know how he died. And so she has to try to solve the mystery of his death. But while she's there, she realizes that she might have been brought there for a more nefarious purpose and that the killer might be after her too. So kind of exactly what you said, a fantasy murder mystery kind of like mashup. So yeah.
I have 2 questions literally just based on that, because I prepped all these questions and stuff, but anytime you talk, I'm always like, ooh, what's that? Okay, so one, just the title. Was that your initial title?
No.
How did you come up with it?
The title for this book, Adalyn, like this title was like trying to murder me. Like I could not come up with a title. And I like, you can ask any of my like CPs or writing friends, like I am so particular about the titles of my books. Like I will go through like 40 million titles and be like, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that, I want it to like have like a vibe or something. Like I don't know. And so I'm really particular, and it takes a lot for me to like figure out and like land on one that I really like. And so there were a couple working titles that this book had. The first title that we had that I was like semi okay with, but I wasn't totally in love with, was The Crimson in the Quiet. But my editor thought that sounded too horror, which I kind of agree. It did kind of sound kind of horror. And so we moved away from that. And at one point it was like Portrait of a Lie, but I thought that sounded really dumb. And so like we just like went through a whole bunch of titles, and I couldn't think of anything. I was like making lists of like painting terms and colors that she uses in the book, and like themes and like Gothic things like shadows and what, I don't know. And it all just like, I couldn't figure it out. And forgery, like that word, like a forgery, was on my list. And I was like, a forgery of what though? Like a forgery of mystery? Like that's dumb. And like I couldn't think of anything. And actually, so the roses are a big part of the book, but in the earlier drafts, it was marigolds. And I thought, and at first I was like, forgery of marigolds, that sounds stupid. I was like, you know, it'd be cool, a forgery of roses. Maybe I should change the marigolds to roses. So I went back to the book and I changed the marigolds to roses, and it like works for like the aesthetic so much better too, because they're like bright, like blood red against the snow. And it like ended up working out really, really well. But it was just really funny because the title, coming up with the title, made me change something about the book instead of like the other way around. I don't know. So yeah, it took some doing to come up with this title.
That's
it's just funny because nobody's asked me about the title. So
well, it's like, it's so funny how big of an effect it had on the rest of your book. Like your cover literally has a rose on it too. Like I'm trying to picture it now with like a marigold. It's very different aesthetic.
It's not even like Gothic or like, I don't know, it's like this whole aesthetic with roses, but like that wasn't even in the first like 18 drafts of this book. So it was funny.
Well, I love the title, so I think you landed somewhere perfect. But yeah, I always think it's so interesting to hear.
Thank you.
I know a lot of times it's not the initial title that people come up with that they actually get to keep.
Yeah, for sure. I think titles are a lot harder than people realize. It's like, oh, you write a whole book, like 3 words or 4 words, like that's fine. No, it's like the hardest part because you have to like sum up the whole thing in 4 words and also like make it sound good. Like it's hard.
Yeah, it's super, super hard. You're trying to be interesting right off the bat. Like you're trying to gather someone's interest right off the bat with just the title. But yeah, I love it. And I also want to talk about how you casually just was like, you were like, oh yeah, there's this like portrait magic, this like painting magic, and then like continued with the rest of your synopsis. We're going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to talk about that because that is one of the coolest magic systems. And I just want you to tell everybody a little bit more about it. And then I really want to know how you came up with it. Like, are you a painter? Is it just, you know, you had the idea while you were painting a masterpiece? Or how did you come up with it?
I wish I really painted masterpieces over here. So the painting magic, in the book, when she paints a portrait of a person, she can alter their robot. So she wants to paint someone so they have purple hair, she can paint them with purple hair, and then their hair will change purple or whatever. So, and like she can heal like minor wounds or like broken bones or something like that, but she can't like change like fundamentals about people. Like if there's a part of somebody's without getting into like the nitty-gritty of like how the magic works, there's just certain aspects of your appearance that are more like deeply rooted in like the way you experience the world. Like those things can't be altered, but like superficial things like hair color or face shape or whatever, like those things can be manipulated. And so she can change people's appearances with her magic. And so yeah. And like the way that I came up with that, I'm not an artist myself at all. Like I like to paint and I like to do art, and like I think art is really cool. And I took art class, like art history classes and art theory classes in college. I never took like how to paint kind of classes, like nothing like practical. So I've just been kind of like an amateur painter or artist or whatever. I'm not super great at it, but that's for fun. But it was just funny because it was like actually I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write after and we forgotten. And we were having a conversation, like me and my editor and my agent, we were all having a conversation about like brands, like what do we want, like when people think of Jessica and Olson books, what do we want people to think about? And I was like, well, like I think my vibe is like kind of like darker, grittier, like fantasy, but like more character driven with like kind of this like I don't know, because like Sing Me Forgotten was like very musical, and so I was like, maybe I'll try to do something with like a creativity, like artistic something. So I was trying to think of stuff like that, and Seeing Me Forgotten was a Phantom of the Opera retelling, so I was thinking of other like Gothic books, and I thought of the Picture of Dorian Gray. And I was like,
Yeah.
painting magic enough, that could be cool. But I didn't want to do a retelling of Dorian Gray, and I didn't, and so I wasn't sure what to do, and so I just kind of like set that aside. I had other ideas, and then I had this idea of like, what if I wrote a murder mystery in like this big mansion, like old estate that's like super creepy, and like creepy family secrets, and like skeletons in the closet, like not literal skeletons in the closet, but just,
But also, you could throw a
but
little
also
bit of
kind of
skeleton in there.
So yeah, and then I came back to the painting magic and was like, maybe I could make it work like this, and like make the piece work out like this. And so I ended up having to do quite a bit of research. I think one of the most intense subjects that I had to research for this book was like oil painting. I've never actually oil painted. Like I've done acrylic painting and I've done watercolor, but I've never done oil painting. So I did a lot of research. There was a lot of like watching YouTube videos of like art instructors teaching people how to oil paint, and lots of researching like how are oil paints made, and like mediums that they use, and the types of paintbrushes they use, and like the techniques and stuff. And I actually got an oil painter to like read the book and make sure that I was being like correct, and like pointing out where something like is not actually how they do it and stuff like that. And so yeah, but so the painting magic was something that kind of grew over time. Like first started out, yeah, that could be cool, and then it grew. So
It's really cool. Like it's just it feels very unique and clever. And I really loved it. That was like a really fascinating part of the story. And I was actually going to ask you more about the research too. So you kind of touched on it already. So we don't have to talk about the artistic stuff, but this is also like, it's not set in modern day. This is, we can classify it as like a timepiece. And there's, the murder mystery element. Like what other stuff did you have to research? Like, did you have to go into a deep dive in anything else?
So I did some research on like time period, but time period is kind of supposed to be like early 1900s. Seeing Me Forgotten was like solidly like 1890 or whatever, like pre-electricity, whatever. But this book was kind of that's like the early 1900s, 1905, 1910-ish. It's based on that because this is a fantasy world. I can do whatever I want, but but I was like loosely basing it on like 1910. So like they're starting to get telephones, but they're not like everywhere. They're starting to get electricity in some places, but not everywhere. Like stuff like that. And so it's kind of like in this cool cusp, like between like the old and the new, which was really fun. So I did some research about that. But I would say, other than the painting, the other thing that I researched the most, and in fact I probably researched this even more than painting, was actually Lucy's gastrointestinal chronic illness that she has, the sister's illness. It was just really important to me that I wanted to make sure that I got it right. And so it took a lot of was a lot of reading, like medical stuff, and like blogs from people who live with chronic illness. And like my husband has this chronic illness that Lucy's chronic illness is based on. So it was a lot of talking to him and getting him to read passages and telling me how to fix it and how to make sure that it's like as authentic and real to like live experience as possible. And it was having like several different people read it, like so many, like and he was like 6 or 7 or maybe 8 different people with chronic illnesses like read the book and tell me, like things that could enrich, Lucy's character and make sure that I was being as authentic to her lived experience as possible, because that was really important to me. I want to make sure I did it right. So that was probably like the most research I did was for Lucy, because I wanted to make sure that I got it right, because she's like my favorite character in the whole book. So I was like, I want to make sure I do her justice. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just want to make, the characters as authentic as possible. So yeah, it sounds like you did a ton of research on that. Was there anything in particular, like the most fascinating nugget that you learned, even if it didn't make its way into the book? Like, did you find anything in your research that was just super, super interesting to you?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, there's one thing that like I didn't know. So I did a whole bunch of research about like painting or whatever, like before I wrote the first draft, but then later on I learned more about like the layering of paints, like when you paint an oil painting and how you like let things dry and then paint the next thing and then let that dry and paint the next thing. And like that actually, like I was like, I should incorporate that into the way the magic works. Like make it a layer thing. So they paint them like the way they are, and then they have to paint over the top of that like the way they want them to be. And like, and so it's not like that was super fascinating, but it was like that tidbit, like when I was doing that, like, I'm gonna put that in the magic. I'm gonna make it work because I had no idea, like as someone who'd never oiled before, I didn't know that you did it in layers. So when I learned that, I was like, definitely.
I don't want to interrupt, sorry, but Jessica, it seems that your sound is cutting out a little bit. Is there any, just, it's not awful, it's just, it kind of sometimes gets a little bit low. I don't know if it's happening for everyone else as well.
I thought it was me, so it is, yeah, it is happening.
Everybody, maybe if I use this, like, my husband just brought me a headphone thing, maybe this can help.
Okay, perfect.
We'll see. Let's see. Is this better?
Yes, it sounds good.
Okay, cool. We're good.
Perfect.
Thanks, hon. So now I get to wear this cool thing. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
You're gonna start playing Call of Duty.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's what he uses this for.
Yeah, mine as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that is really, I love when research, like you go in looking for one thing and then, you know, you come across this nugget and then like everything kind of changes around it. You're like, oh, and you just get inspired. You have like that moment. So yeah, that is super cool. Did you have any other like inspirations for the story? You mentioned Dorian Gray, and I feel like that definitely, you know, there's like vibes of that. Was there anything else that kind of you saw and there was something about that you just loved and wanted to create something like in vein of that?
Well, I am like a super big like murder mystery thriller buff. Like I love murder mystery thrillers. And so even just like the fact that I like decided to make my plot be a murder mystery thriller was like this, I don't know, because I love fantasy and I love murder mystery thrillers. And then one day I was like, what if I do both at the same time? So it was, so there's a lot that like, you know, I got a lot from just reading a lot of murder mystery thrillers that I like. Like I really like reading Riley Sager and I really like Ruth Ware. And I also, I mean, there's like YA, like I really like Inheritance Games. I really enjoyed that one. And anything by Karen McManus, I really enjoy. And so I just wanted to like infuse, because I'm like, we've got a lot of fantasies about people who are like saving kingdoms or like fighting bad guys or like doing these epic quests or whatever. But I was like, what if I like took like this thing that I really love, which is thrillers, and like added magic? Like I just thought that could be really, really cool. So yeah, I drew a lot of inspiration just from all of the murder mystery thrillers that I read. And I really enjoy those books. Like I think they're so fun. And I was like intimidated to start reading murder mystery thrillers back when I first did, because I thought they were going to be too scary for me because I'm like kind of a pansy. But then I got into them and I'm like super hooked now and I won't stop.
Did you always know that you wanted to write one, or was that kind of a new revelation?
No, that was a thing that just like happened when, you know, I was trying to come up with a book to write for my second book and my deal with my publisher. And so I was like, what am I going to write? And yeah, it just occurred to me to write a murder mystery at that point. So it was never a thing where I was like, I always hope to write one of those someday. It was like super spur of the moment, but it worked out. And I really, really had so much fun doing it that like now, like every single idea that I have going forward is like some variation of like murder mystery or thriller. So we'll see how that goes for me.
They're tough too. Like murder mysteries are they're really, really tough. So I wonder, was your process in writing this one different at all from when you wrote your previous book, your debut? Like how did your process differ between the two books?
Yeah, I mean, you probably could talk about this with Belladonna too, which is also a Gothic fantasy murder mystery, which is why we're like perfect little buddies with our books. But so with every book that I had done before and with Semi Forgotten, I always just like outlined from the beginning until the end, and that was how it went. But with A Forgery of Roses, I was like trying to do that and I couldn't. And I realized I had to like go backwards. Like I had to start with like the final reveal, and then I had to like go back from there, like figuring out like, hey, like how did she get there? And then how did she get to that clue? And then how did she get to that clue? And like kind of like backwards plot it. Like when I did my Save the Cat beat sheet, I had to like go backwards, and it like broke my brain. I was like, why am I making this so hard on myself? Like, why did I pick a mystery? Like, this is not straightforward. But it was actually really fun, and forced me to kind of like get out of my comfort zone a little bit and learn some more about like how to plot a book. And there's not actually a ton of information out there about like how to plot a mystery. Like I was like Googling like how to plot a mystery, how to like, I was hoping they'd have like beat sheets, like here's where you reveal this plot point and here's where you reveal this clue. And like, they don't have that stuff really. Like it's not as, I don't know, Googling was not as helpful as it sometimes can be. So
would you say that people are keeping it a mystery, how to write a mystery?
I would definitely say that.
Sorry, that was a bad dad joke there. No, but you're totally right. There's books for, you know, romancing the beat, like beat sheets on romance and where certain points of that should be. There's, you know, Save the Cat beat sheet. But yeah, I agree with you. There's like, it's really hard to find stuff on romance. And it very much, at least like in my experience, it feels like you have to read, like you just have to read mysteries and then try your best.
Yep.
and hope that it feels mysterious.
Yep. I have found more and more with every book that I write that like as soon as I know what I want to do, I have to go find a billion books who have done it before and read as many of them as I can so that I know what like tropes people are expecting when they read a mystery, and I know what kind of progression that people are expecting. Like, because so much about writing a book is fulfilling author expectations. And so when readers or did I say author expectations? I meant reader expectation. I don't know what I said. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So that like when you pick up a mystery book, you know that you're going to get certain things from it, and you don't know what those things are unless you read widely in that genre. So, so to write a mystery, you got to read mysteries, and that's just kind of what I had to go on, because they don't have like how to plot a mystery like they do with a bunch of other genres. But they do have like some stuff out there, but it's just there's not as much of it as there are other things.
Yeah, no. And I mean, now, like, I feel like we're both in the situation where we've written this murder mystery now, and we really love it. And now we have to keep doing more. So you just have to, you know, really keep figuring out different ways to be mysterious.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny because like every time I like try to think of a new plot, I'm like, ooh, and then I'm like, wait, no, I did that twist last time. Can't do the same twist again.
Or yeah, you have to find like weird niche different ways to like go about it to still make it feel like this new thing. Yeah.
It's tricky, but dang, once you like get it figured out, it's like so fun when people are like, oh my gosh, like you just blew my mind, or like whatever, when they get to like the reveal or whatever, and it's so satisfying. It's like, yes, do you know how hard it was to get it to the point where it would make you have that reaction?
Well, I mean, it's so good that you knew like the ending and you plotted backwards from there. I was the total opposite.
Really?
Complete opposite. Where like I had everything plotted out, and then I was like, I just don't know my ending. And then I had to write the ending and like go back and edit. So yeah, congratulations, you did it right. You did it well.
I don't know. Well, I really enjoyed your book, so whatever you did worked out. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, Belladonna comes out, is it August? When does it come out?
Yeah, August 23rd.
August 23rd. It's another Gothic fantasy murder mystery with a romantic love interest called Death. He's amazing. So everybody should, if you like Forgery of Roses, you will love Belladonna, because I'm obsessed with it. So
they're very much in the same vein, but then
they're like super similar vibes.
Yeah, even to like we each have it set in like an older time period. And I was going to ask you like how you came up with the one you went with, or like early 1900s. Like what made you gravitate towards that time?
I think it was just, I don't know, because I know it's tricky. Like readers have a harder time with like more recent stuff. Like if it's like set in 1980, it doesn't really feel historical. And so I wanted to have it feel historical, but I didn't really want it to be like old time, like 1400s or anything. And so it was kind of just what felt
right when I was writing it. It just kind of felt like kind of just post-Victorian. I don't know. And there was a lot of like class structures that I wanted to play with that kind of happened at that time, where women were starting to be a little bit less like oppressed than they had been before, but obviously still not considered equal to men or whatever. And there's just a lot of stuff I wanted to play with. But I just really like the historical vibe. Like I really enjoy writing in that. And I think that it lends itself really well to like that creepy, like gothic, like atmospheric feel or whatever. And like a house that doesn't have electricity yet, like that's really fun to play with, and like gas lamps and stuff. And so I don't know, it was mostly like a vibe thing, I'll be honest. It's like I like the vibes, so I think I'm gonna do that. So
Yeah, I mean, everything's just a vibe. Like that's how, I don't know about you, that's how I come up with ideas. It's just like, what kind of vibe do I feel like writing today? And this isn't a question, but it's more just a commentary of something you mentioned. You wanted to play with different like class structures and stuff. And I feel like you do that really well in terms of like the socioeconomic like issues that you're discussing between, you know, how she has this illness, she has this chronic illness, and treatment for her is very different than somebody from, you know, a wealthy family. And I feel like you do a really good job at like portraying the different class structures, the different, you know, gender structures in Forgery. So yeah, that's just a comment. I think you do that really well.
Thank you. That was actually a thing that was you know, important to the story, because Lucy and Myra are, you know, poorer, and and Myra comes to this house where they're very wealthy, and they come from this old family wealth, and this mansion that's been in the family for centuries and stuff. And like it's just like this I don't know, it was like I really liked playing with that, like she was coming as an outsider, and like in this world where they just like take things for granted, that she is just like, this is amazing, you know. And it was really important, even just for the stakes, you know, because they needed to be kind of desperate and needing money, so that she would be desperate enough to take on this job that's so dangerous for her. So it needed to be like, we really need this money, and how can I make the stakes as dire as possible? Well, they really need the money, you know. And so and I also just think it's a really important commentary that people who don't deal with disability or illness or mental illness, I just think it's really important to show like those things cost money. And a lot of times, like it's just to live, we just need money to like live our lives, and it shouldn't be that hard to get care. Like it should not be as hard as it is to get care. And I kind of wanted to put a spotlight on that and show just how difficult it is for Myra and Lucy, because Lucy just needs care, you know, but they don't have the money to afford a doctor. And so the kind of consequences of living in a world that doesn't prioritize keeping people healthy, which is, you know, kind of the world we live in. So
right. Yeah. Well, I think you did a really great job at it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then, so we've talked about Myra and Lucy a little bit. Can you tell us anything about the family that, you know, is paying her to do this work for them? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that part of the plot?
Sure. So Myra goes to paint the portrait for the family. They're the Harris family. And the Harrises, they come from this old wealth, and they're actually the governing family. Like the Governor Harris is the father. And so he's like this, like, he's not a great person. I don't really like him, and I don't think you're not supposed to like him. He's not a great guy. So he's, you know, kind of staunchly opposed to magic, and he's staunchly opposed to like helping poor people. And like, he's just kind of, his focus for most of the book is getting reelected. And because the election is coming up and whatever. And then his wife, and he's also quite cruel to his sons in different ways. His oldest son, August, who Myra works with throughout the course of the book, he has anxiety and social anxiety, which was written from my own personal experience. And the father is very like intolerant of his son. Like his son's struggles to be around people because, you know, they live in a very public facing position as the governing family. And so it's like August not being able to give speeches is an embarrassment to Governor Harris and stuff. And so so that's kind of their dynamic. And then Will, before he died, he was set to be like, even though he was the younger son, because August can't do the speeches and stuff, they kind of had like thrust Will into the spotlight and said, Will, you're going to follow your father's footsteps and hopefully take over when dad's done, and you're going to be his lackey and do all of his stuff. And Will didn't want to do that either, but you know, his father is very controlling. And so there's kind of just a lot of like dynamics there. And it also lends itself to, you know, the mystery, because like Will's dead, and how did he die, and is it something political, is it something from his father, did mother do something, like you don't know, you don't quite know. But yeah, so that's a little bit about the family. She goes to their house and has to get all mixed up in their drama, and it's great.
Oh, and mixed up in the drama she gets. Do you have any do you have I know every author hates this question so much, but do you have a favorite character? I have a favorite character of yours. Mine's August.
I love August. August is so sweet. Actually, I think that Lucy's my favorite, which is funny because I really loved August like in the initial drafts, but the more I worked on the drafts, the more I just like love Lucy. Like she's just so funny and spunky and smart, and like I love her so much. So I think Lucy's my favorite. She's the little sister, Myra's little sister, and she's my favorite. And like if I ever get to write sequels to this book, like Lucy's gonna be all over the place. And so I'm excited if that happens.
Do you have hopes to write a sequel? Should I be asking that?
There's no like official plans or anything like that. I do have ideas, but I mean, I haven't even like pitched them to a publisher. I probably won't pitch them to my publisher unless it happened that, you know, readers were so overwhelmingly in love with Forgery the sequel. Then maybe I'd be like, hey, I have these ideas, but who knows if it'll ever happen. It's just kind of one of those things where I had this epiphany one night and I wrote it down and I said, I will save that. And if the time comes and it feels right, then I will pursue it. And if not, whatever. So yeah, and now it's written to be a standalone. So
it's so funny, especially nowadays, like you never know what's going to happen, especially with TikTok. Like the right person can read an old book and then suddenly it will blow up. And then suddenly they're writing prequels and sequels and spin-offs and everything. Yeah. Like, I feel like it used to be you had to come out of the gate so strong, and there's still a little bit of that expectation for sure. Yeah. But I feel like more and more as social media and TikTok in particular is growing, there's more room.
It's like, it's so crazy how much TikTok has sold books. Like it's nuts. But I mean, I'm not complaining. Like I love that people are excited about books. So yeah, but if they could be excited about my book, that'd be cool.
Come on, TikTok. Oh my gosh. So okay, without giving away any spoilers, do you have a favorite scene? And I was gonna say but I actually want to know both. And is there something that you are most excited for readers to get to and experience, whether it is like a certain scene or a character or anything?
So there's two scenes that I really, really liked writing. The first one that happens in the book is the scene on the balcony with August and Myra at the charity event that they go to. And so it's a little bit of a romantic scene. That was one of my favorites to write. They also like have a pretty intense argument, which I love writing when people are arguing and they're in love. Like I just love that. But the other scene that I really, really had fun with was like the final reveal scene when you finally find out who killed Will. And
who done it.
That one was super fun to write, and that is also the one that I love when people get to, because it's just like the whole book is leading up to that moment. So like if people get to that one and are excited about the reveal, it makes me really happy. So
Do you ever wish that you could just be like a little bug on the wall looking over someone's shoulder? Like, what are you guessing? Who do you think,
yeah.
like
Who do
right
you
now,
think
who do you think it is? Who do you think it is? Yeah,
I know.
anytime
I like
have,
wish that I could like have people like, do you want to just like DM me, like tell me what
yeah.
page you're on and tell me who you think it is? Like I would just love, like I would love that, because I just think it would be so fun to like hear.
Mhm.
I remember when I was reading Belladonna, I think I texted you a couple of times. I was like, I think it's so and so, or like I think it's this person, and you were just like, well, guess we'll find out.
I know, I
So
put
it's
all my
super fun.
friends. Yeah, it's so fun because I mean, you get reviews as an author, but like you don't
Mhm.
really get the experience of like the play by play of like,
Yeah.
oh, I think it's this. Oh, I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, and
So
the thing is like as an author, you've never read your book not knowing the ending. So like sometimes
mhm.
it's a little bit of curiosity. Like I wonder who I would think it was if I were reading this book and I hadn't written it. Like what I think. And so it's fun to hear like what other people think, because you don't get to experience it as a reader, but it's fun to like experience it vicariously through your readers, I guess. Like I don't know.
No, it
Yeah,
is. I always ask people like,
so, especially with a mystery.
mhm. Anytime I have a friend reading, I always ask them, I'm like, well, I don't ask them because then I feel like it's the pressure that I'm giving them where they have to do that. But I very politely suggest that they, send me messages. I was like, if you want to keep me updated with like who you think it is, just let me know.
Yep.
Yeah, because that feedback is so fun. It's so fun.
Because usually with reviews, you just get it when they're at the end, like
Yeah.
after they finished it. And so you like with
Mhm.
reviews, they're just like, I didn't know who it was until the very end, or like whatever. But like you don't get to know. And usually they're trying to keep it spoiler free. So they're not going to
Right.
say like, I thought it was this specific person on page 47, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. Because like then that would be a spoiler, right? So so yeah.
Do you have one piece of advice you would give somebody who is thinking about doing like a mystery, whether it's a murder mystery or mystery thriller, just any type of mystery? Do you have like one piece of advice?
Well, I think we kind of touched on it, which is just read a ton of
Yeah.
mysteries. Like just read as many mysteries as you can get your hands on, especially ones that have like a similar vibe to what you're going for, because you can learn from the masters that way. Like, so that's one piece of advice. And another piece of advice, and I don't know if like this is like a hard and fast, you can do whatever you want, but like for me, it really helped to plot backwards and know like where my character was going to end up. Because like plotting and outlining, like I'm an outliner. I don't enjoy outlining. I don't think it's fun. It's like a chore, but like it helps me so much when I go to like actually draft the novel, and especially with a mystery where you have specific clues that you have to put in that have to lead them somewhere. A little bit more, and like the red herrings, you have to put those in somewhere, and like you just have to, it just feels like, and I have no idea how somebody could write a mystery without outlining it. I'm sure people have done it. I'm sure there are brilliant people who can pull it off, but like I highly recommend figuring out figuring out what clues you're going to drop and where they're going to lead your character before you write the book.
I
So.
really love the idea of outlining. It's like putting the pen to paper is where I start to dislike it more, but I like the stage where you're mentally outlining. That's my favorite part of the process
I love it too, because there's
ever.
like so much potential. You could do anything. It's like,
yeah, it's
just
not
vibe to that
scary.
point. It's like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not real yet. Once you start doing the work, you're like, oh, yeah, writing a book is hard. But when you're in that like beginning mode where it's just an idea, it's like so exciting. You feel like, you have magic.
And you have those moments where you think, you realize like what's going to happen, what's going to connect everything together. And then it just feels like you've been hit by like this wave of magic. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm amazing. I figured it out. I'm a genius.
Yeah. Like, oh,
and that's like,
do you get
and then
like
you have
this,
to write it.
Yeah. Do you, when you write books, do you get like this, like, I need to finish it as fast as possible? Like when I get an idea, like I want to do it now. Like I have to like force myself to like slow down and like do the process, because like when I get an idea and I'm so excited about it, I want readers to read it already. Like I want to be done so that they can read it. And so like the whole time I'm writing a book, I'm just like, come on, like hurry up. And I get so frustrated with myself that I can't do it faster because I want everybody to read it already so that I can be excited about it with them. So, because like interacting with readers, like days like today when people are starting to read the book and when people, you know, the past couple weeks, because they got it in a certain subscription box, people have started reading it and like getting to interact with people who have like actually read the book. It's like so fun. It's like, yay. But like, I worked on it for 2 years before you got this. And so and like, so now I'm like in the middle of a book right now and I'm just like dying for people to read it, but like, it's not ready yet. So people can't read it. Do you get that? Like, do you get impatient to be like the...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I definitely do, but it's so funny because like mentally, yes. And then physically, I'm like, that SpongeBob episode where he's just like lounging back and then he spends like the full day just like writing the word "the." Yeah. That has been my new process. It's not my old process. It's my new tired process.
Yeah. No, I feel that. It's like I want to be done, but the actually doing it is less. So, you know, I was like,
yeah, it's tiring, but I totally know what you mean. Cause I'm outlining my next book right now, and then I'm dying to dive into it. But like, I actually have to edit a book first. I can't dive into it yet. So yeah,
I heard V.E. Schwab once say that she enjoys having written much more than actually writing, and I'm like, that's me. I enjoy having written a book much more than like actually writing the book.
I like the idea process.
Yeah.
But okay, we're getting close to our Q&A, so I'm going to ask you some speed round questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Just first things to your head.
Okay.
Best movie ever.
So the thing that's coming to my brain is Inception, but I don't know why, because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be true. It's just the first one.
The first movie that popped in my head was Inception, which I enjoyed, but I don't know if that's my favorite movie, but sure.
Well, it is for today. Last book you read.
It could be my favorite movie for right now. The last book I read was the last book I finished was Gallant by V.E. Schwab.
I'm excited to read that. Okay. A book you're really looking forward to.
Belladonna. Okay. I've already read that one. I guess that doesn't count. What's one that I'm looking forward to that I haven't read yet? Shoot, what's coming out soon? Wild is the Witch. I just got that one from Rachel Griffin. I just got that one to read.
It's good. It's so atmospheric.
I'm really excited to read that one.
I love that one. Okay, dogs or cats?
Dog.
Okay. You can go one place in the world on a free vacation. Where do you go?
Tahiti.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
I like beach. I like beaches. I want to go like take a nap. Basically, that's like my whole life. Like, I just want to find somewhere that's like really nice to take a nap. So I don't get enough sleep.
I can appreciate that. Oh well, yeah, because you're mom to newborns, right? Like or young kids.
Yeah, I have 4 kids, and my youngest is a baby. So I don't sleep much.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Okay, favorite Disney song.
Well, I mean, the one that we've been having on repeat for the last 2 months is "We Don't Talk About Bruno," but I feel like at this point that is no longer a favorite song because it's like heard it sometimes. I really like A Whole New World, like from Aladdin. Like classic.
Okay, yeah. Best Disney villain.
Ursula or Hades.
Hades is mine too.
Hercules.
That's mine too.
I love him. He's so funny.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love him. His humor is just it matches my humor, and I don't know what that says about me. But just like that, we have just on time reached the Q&A section. Look at that.
Yay.
Okay, I love those speed round questions. I was on the edge of my seat for everyone waiting for the answer. It's like, I don't think I can answer that quickly. So kudos to you, Jessica. All right, so we have a lot of questions.
Maybe I'll actually like think of my favorite movie.
All right, and as a reminder, you can still ask your questions using the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen, but we're going to jump right in because we have quite a few here. Your books have a note of Gothic. What's your favorite thing about books with Gothic flair?
I am like super dramatic, so I like how they like add drama and like make things spooky and creepy and fun, and I can make like a cloud super dramatic and I like can get away with it. I just like being a little bit over the top, and I think that's what I like about Gothic. What about you, Adalyn?
Yeah, I like the vibe, like the aesthetic, and then also that they get to have a touch of paranormal without really being
Mhm.
classified as paranormal, because a lot of
Yes,
publishers right now, they're very hesitant to buy paranormal for whatever reason because they're wrong. So then you just get to
they're
kind of call it
wrong.
they're wrong, and then you just get to call it gothic, and you kind of get to play with that world as well.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Let's see. Any tips for plotting a mystery thread? It seems hard.
It is hard.
Uh,
Um,
it is hard.
I like Jessica's idea. I didn't do that, but now I want to go back and like for my next book, I want to do the plot backwards. That seems really smart.
It, it's like how I do it now. Like, because I'm working on another one that's a mystery, and it was like, okay, what's the final twist? And then how do we get there? And like, you just
Mhm.
go backwards. It helps.
Just plotting in general too. What Jessica mentioned earlier was Save the Cat. I also highly recommend that one, and you can kind of like try to tie
Yeah.
your mystery into that. But just overall structure, I would look at that.
Yeah, and in Save the Cat, it talks about they call it why done it novels, but it's like the mystery genre of like how to plot a novel. And so there's a section in Save the Cat that does talk a little bit about how to plot a mystery, but they call it why done it instead of who done it. The why of why the person did it tends to be the more interesting thing than the actual who,
Mhm.
why they did it. So making sure that you have your villain have a really good reason and a really like intriguing, interesting reason is going to be more satisfying than just like the least like likely person or something.
Mhm.
It's the person with the most interesting motive, I guess.
All right. Would the main characters of A Forgery of Roses and Belladonna be friends?
I could see that. Yeah,
I think
they could.
so.
They're both kind of
Yeah.
like, you know, motivated and like go-getter type people. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if go-getter is the right word, but like driven girls. I don't know. I think they
Yeah. And they're both kind
could
of
be friends.
like they have their eye on society and like know what the expectations are, but also don't like
Mhm.
those like expectations
Yeah,
and kind of want to maneuver around them. So yeah, I think that they'd be friends.
I think yeah, and I think like if they were trying to solve a mystery, they'd like team up and get it done.
They get it done so fast.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be a fun book to read at that point.
I love that. I love the idea of two characters from different books coming
Yeah,
together. So
it'd be
that seems
super
really
fun.
cool. All right, let's see. Does, and if so, how, your own life experiences influence the stories you decide to tell? You talked about it a bit with Sing Me, but what about Forgery and whatever you're working on next?
Um, I think that like any book that I write, and probably the same with you, Adalyn, or like any author, like we do infuse a little bit of our lived experience into the characters or into like the challenges that they face or whatever. So, but like certain characters are gonna reflect us more than others. I would say that Isda probably reflects me a little bit more than Myra does, but I think that Myra does, you know, embody like the fierce love that I have for my people. Like my like her whole thing is that she is just so she just loves Lucy so much. She would do anything. She would walk to the ends of the earth for her sister. And like and that comes from my own love for my family and for my kids. Like I would do anything for them, you know? And so that comes from me. And so I think that there's like pieces of us and like August is a really important character for me because I personally live with anxiety and I wanted to portray a character in a he's the love interest and he has anxiety and that's okay because I think a lot of times in young adult in particular people just like you know idolize like the broody like muscular dude and August is this tall lanky guy with anxiety and he writes poetry and I really wanted to show that like that kind of guy can be a love interest and he can be a hero and he can save the day too and that was really important to me and so writing his anxiety from my own experience was I mean that's from me too and so it's just like every character has pieces of me in them and certain storylines might have more of my life in them than others. Like I've never solved a mystery in my life, and I hope I never have to. So so the plot itself doesn't necessarily follow my experiences, but the characters, they come from me. Like they're each made of pieces of me. So
Yeah, I think even if it's not intentional, it kind of always like there's always a part that just slips into the stories. And sometimes you never know what it's going to be, and then you're like, oh, I see what I did there. But yeah, I think it's just
sometimes you don't realize you did it until afterwards.
Yeah, I think it just, it naturally kind of slips in. At least every book for me so far.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of a similar question to this last one, but did you draw from any favorite romances or romance tropes as an inspiration while writing your books?
So both of my books so far feature the forbidden romance trope. That wasn't really on purpose. It just kind of happened, just by nature of like the way the story worked. So in Sing Me Forgotten, she's, the masked phantom character that is supposed to stay hidden, and she is not supposed to interact with anyone. And so her romance with the guy is forbidden because she's not supposed to be interacting with anyone. But in Forgery of Roses, it's a class structure thing where he is the son of the governor, and he's this wealthy, and he's supposed to be seen with the right people, and he's supposed to be making important, he's actually like betrothed-ish to somebody, and like he's supposed to be, making an advantageous match for his, standing, and she is obviously not considered advantageous as a match for like to his parents. And so so that's kind of how it became like, but it wasn't something that I was like, I want to write a forbidden romance. It's kind of just like, as I was writing, it was like, this is the way. Because usually whenever I write a romance, it's like, okay, well, there needs to be things that keep these two from getting together, because that's what kind of makes it interesting to read about. Like, how do we keep them from getting together? That's where the tension comes from. And so in this one, it was like, well, if we make it as hard as possible for them to.
Is she frozen?
I think she's frozen.
Oh no.
I could take over until she hopefully gets back.
Okay.
For me, it's not like I don't look at any one particular romance, like one pair, and be like, I want to mimic that pair. Oh, I think she's back. Hi.
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, we got her. Good.
Did you want to finish what you were saying?
I don't know where it cut off because I didn't realize that it had cut off until I was done talking.
I think you're talking about like keeping people from being together, like what goes into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just kind of the point. Like with Forgery of Roses, it was just like them being in different classes was keeping them from being apart or together. But sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just saying I don't look at like any certain pair and be like, I want to mimic them. It's more about kind of like, the trope, like the forbidden romance or the dark descent or the death and the maiden trope for sure for Belladonna. And it's also just like, okay, what kind of, I'm working on a new character right now, and the romance is this very button-up man coming undone. And just like, it's more like that for me. It's more like, what do I want to do with this character? What are they like? And what kind of match would be really interesting for them to write about?
Yeah. And I think a romance is really important, like to link very closely with the character arc, because if the romance doesn't make the character grow in some way, then like, what's the point? Like it needs to be part of like what pushes this person to learn the thing that they need to learn about themselves, or to become the person that they need to become. Like what about this romance and this other person specifically challenges them in the way that they need to be challenged in order to learn the thing that they need to learn for the end of the book or whatever. And so sometimes it's less about like, what trope do I want to do, and more about like, what kind of romance would serve this character the best.
All right, this next one I think is super interesting. What Taylor Swift song is your book? And we can open that up to maybe any song. We don't think Taylor Swift can be a little hard to dwindle it down to. I think that's a pretty tough question, but just what song is your book?
I'm gonna open up Spotify and hope that I made a playlist of this.
I would have to think about that for a little while, I think. Um, because as a mom, like I just listen to like Encanto, like on repeat. So like I don't know, like I've listened to the Taylor Swift like songs, obviously, but like not, I don't know them as well as I would have before I had kids. I'm trying to think.
I put Exile on a playlist. Exile by Taylor Swift. I put that on like the Belladonna playlist. I don't know if it's like the best match because honestly, all I listened to while I was drafting Belladonna was Peter Gundry, who's a composer, and there's no like lyrics or anything. It's just this very dark, beautiful music that I listened to so much that I named a character after him. So
I have no idea because I'm not super great with like Spotify playlists or anything like that for my books. It's actually like my CPs that like come up with my Spotify playlist. Shout out to Jessica Froberg. So I'd be super curious if anybody watching reads my book and thinks that they like know what Taylor Swift song it should be, like please DM me and tell me because I really want to know. Like I'm super curious what they think the Forgery of Roses Taylor Swift song would be.
I don't know if it's like I think there's one with better vibes than what I'm gonna say for your book, but like oh look what you made me do, like that. No, I mean that works.
Yeah, I felt like that one was very Isda, like where she's like,
yeah,
like, look what you made me do, just tearing the world down. But
yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, but I feel like that might work for like the villain. Not that I'm gonna spoil anything.
No, that's who I was thinking of when I said that.
I think maybe it would be a villain, like the Taylor Swift villain song.
So that's all the more reason to go and buy the book so you can read it and let Jessica know what Taylor Swift song you all think A Forgery of Roses
I would love
is.
to hear what people think.
We should like post that question on our stories on Instagram and like have people answer because I feel like that's a really good question.
It is a good question. I want to know because I love Taylor Swift. Like I love her music. I just I don't know it well. Like I know her early stuff, like her country stuff super well, but like her like the more recent like folklore and all of those ones, I don't know those ones as well. Like I don't have them memorized like I did with like the earlier songs. So I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Like
we'll
on
ask
the spot.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram will know.
It will know.
Instagram always knows.
All right. So we're going to make this our final question, and it's for both of you. Can you describe your book in 3 words?
This is like the title thing. Like I already said, I don't do well with like condensing my book down into a couple words. Okay, I'll think.
Romance, mystery, death.
I was gonna say like dark, romantic, and mysterious or something like that. I don't know what Adalyn
is your mystery mysterious? What?
Right. Well, I mean, Adalyn's blurb says marvelously magical and steeping with mystery. Like we could condense that like marvelous, magical, and mysterious.
Just add like a little hyphen. Hyphenate one of the words.
It's close. Yeah.
All right.
Something.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time. I want to thank both of you so much for being here tonight. This was such a great event. As always, do not forget to purchase a copy of Forgery of Roses. We have links in the chat for you to easily click and purchase your copy there, or you can come visit us in store. We also have signed book plates, so make sure you get your copy. And we also sent links to pre-order Belladonna, so make sure you do that as well. I want to thank everyone so much for being here tonight, and thank you again, Adalyn and Jessica.
Yes, thank you for having us, and thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, Jessica.
Thank you so much. So excited for Belladonna soon. Everybody needs to pre-order it.
Thank you. And everyone needs to go out and buy Forgery.
Yes, please do.